Hello and howdy do. Today I'm feeling for a bit of a deluge of the wildfire hot nonsense Kool-Aid that was Transformers Generation 2. So let's tread on down to this keen, mean, green, raging machine. It's Generation Select's Generation 2 Megatron. As I'm sure most are familiar, Generation 2 represents a strange period of the Transformers franchise, in that much like most other things from the 90s, I just don't know what anyone was thinking.
Time as Optimus Prime goes toe-to-toe with combat Megatron. Prime is one tough dude underneath his hood. He's a Transformer missile fire phenomenon.
Must have been dark times, those 90s.
It was a pretty stark transition as well, going from G1's robots in disguise, normal-looking alt modes deal to G2's garish, inexplicable 90s decadence, giving the middle finger to the entire concept of color theory, gimmicks galore, and what's this? Oh, no, looks like a perfectly normal truck to me, carry on. But I guess that's why Transformers fans love G2. It's so dated, it's kind of timeless in its own way. It's a product of its time, but not problematically so. A bit like Shrek. Speaking of things that are large and green, that era also marked the first time we ever saw Megatron don an alt mode different from his 80s gun self, which, understandable. So in line with everything I just established, let's take a look at Hasbro's recent attempt to homage that anomaly. Now I should warn you, you do kind of have to squint to be able to see this figure. I know the camouflage paint is convincing, but trust me, it is in fact in frame. Color-wise, he doesn't really look like a tyrannical, imposing, threatening evildoer. He just kind of looks like Megatron if Megatron listened to Smash Mouth. But that's what makes this figure so endearing, the fact that it even exists. I'm personally all about his Hulk cosplay with the green all over and the purple Speedos. Adore the look of the head here, looking like he's unimpressed with the complete tomfoolery of his followers. And I always have time for uniquely colored eyes. I love it when Autobots and Decepticons dare to travel outside the binary, much like I do, of red and blue eye color, and these seem to be sporting a stunning shade of orange I like to call Garf. I mean, Garfield and Megatron have the same voice actor. Marvel at the absurd splotches of purple he's sporting, like he's rolled around in that Ghostbusters 2 slime. And any Megatron with a purple fusion cannon is an instant 10 in my heart. The legs look very nice, with their traditional Megatron subtle smooth curvature in the front, but the recent development of tank-treaded calves in the back. This isn't so much a straight-up modern adaptation of G2 Megatron, as much as it is an interesting what-if question in motion. So sculpt and feature-wise, it's more so trying to emulate the 80s design, which means it doesn't feature the exact design cues of the original, like the orange squared M or that sound feature the original toy had.
Listen to the voice of doom.
Anyway, how is your sex life?
But the absence of that stuff doesn't really stifle anything in my mind. Like, remember when Smash Mouth covered Don't You Forget About Me? No? Well, that was a thing that happened. It's like that. It's not trying to be the exact same thing as the original, it's basically an homage first and foremost. He's got the rest of the tank stuff on his back, which you think would be a hindrance or an eyesore, but in hand it's actually not too obtrusive. It's also impressive how much the subtle dabs of orange throughout the figure really bring it to life and have it look that much more eye-catching. It's not overpowering, but it works super well. What doesn't work super well though is this other weapon accessory he comes with. What is this? A tank barrel attached to a really wide sword? It connects to his arm alright, but it always looks so out of place and not very good. But otherwise, everything else here is gloriously tacky in the good way. It's a Megatron who doesn't care what you think an intimidating leader looks like. Transforming him is very logical and cohesive, very smart and sensible, and you don't have to take off the fusion cannon when going into either mode. I will note though that getting this back plate on is kind of a nightmare, but everything does come together to make this unabashed demonstration of G2 nostalgia. And as tank modes go, this is a very strong effort. That dumb-looking blade thing makes itself useful as this long tank pipe, which this is clearly the job it was made for. And once again, the sculpt work is absolutely swaggering with the panel lines and the circly bits. I don't know anything about tanks. You know, Megatron was actually mentioned in the most recent 21 Pilots album, which is actually pretty fitting because Megatron transforms into a tank, and 21 Pilots is terrible. This alt mode looks great throughout, but admittedly less so in the back, with these large conspicuous feet sticking out, and it's made even stranger by the color difference from the rest of the tank. But trust me, that does nothing to shatter this figure's overall majesty. Also, the top can go a full 360-degree rotation, which is impressive when you consider that not too many tank formers can actually do this. We finally got one, lads! They actually went through the effort of having silver painted circles on the tank wheels, and you gotta love that G2 Decepticon badge represented. It's like, even pushing aside that we know this is Megatron, I feel like this has his spirit, forming into a large and in charge hulking mass. I guess there is something I have to give G2. The 90s kind of went on this crusade to make everything a radical and cool version of itself, trying to make it what teenagers and adults who never outgrew that phase would consider cool. And then here comes Transformers Generation 2, turning the ruthless Decepticon leader into a neon fever dream, and I wouldn't have it any other way. In summary, G2 Megatron is a lovely thing, and I can still appreciate it as someone who's never really been into Generation 2. It's a big, attractive, vibrant villain living out my unfortunate fashion dreams. So, as with my last video, in celebration of Pride Month, I'm going to give a mention to these organizations that help out LGBTQ people. That's Glisten, the Trevor Project, and the Trans Lifeline. If you can, please consider donating. It could really make an impact. I'll leave links to all these websites in the description of this video. Please enjoy your week, and thanks for watching. Yeah, that's right. Not even I'm willing to make a thanks for watching pun. I've got some self-respect.